We will therefore, in this study, deal with an astrology which will be non mathematical and which will have no relation to the casting of horoscopes. It will concern itself with the 12 types of energy beams, of which consciousness of the divine reality is brought about through the medium of form. In no distant heaven and in no subjective state did Hercules arrive at this knowledge. In the physical body, handicapped and limited by the tendencies conferred on him by the sign in which he performed the labor, he attained understanding of his own essential divinity. Through the overcoming of form and the subjugation of matter, a picture is given us of an unfolding divine realization. In the study, therefore, of Hercules, the disciple, and of Christ, the world Savior, we have an entire pictorial presentation of the final stages of unfoldment which lie ahead of us all. As we study the story of Hercules and go with him through his 12 labors, passing around the great zodiac of the heavens, we will approach it from two angles, that of the individual aspirant and that of humanity as a whole. It is now possible to regard the human family as having reached the stage of the aspirant, the stage of the intelligent seeker, the stage of the man who, having developed his mind and coordinated his abilities, mental, emotional, and physical, has exhausted the interest of the phenomenal world and is looking for a way out into a wider realm of awareness and into a more sphere of undertakings. This stage has always been expressed by the advanced individuals down the stages, but never before has the human race itself been in this condition. Herein lies the wonder of past achievement, and herein lies the hour of present opportunity. Hercules the disciple, the myth. He stood before his teacher. Dimly, he understood that a crisis was upon him, leading to change of speech, of attitude and plan. The teacher looked at him, and liked him well. Your name? He asked, and waited for an answer. Herakles, the answer came. Or Hercules. They tell me that it means Hera, rare glory, the radiance and effulgence of the soul. What is the soul, old teacher? Tell me. That soul of yours you shall discover as you do your task, and find and use the nature which is yours. Who are your parents? Tell me this, my son. My father is divine. I know him not, except that in myself I know I'm his son. My mother is an earthly one. I know her well, and she has made me what you see. Likewise, O teacher of my life, I am also one of twins. There is another one, like unto me. I also know him well, yet know him not. One is of the earth, thus earthly. The other is a son of God. What of your training, Hercules, my son? What can you do? And how have you been taught? In all accomplishments I am proficient. I am well taught, well trained, well guided, and well known. All books I know, all arts and sciences as well. The labors of the open field are known to me. Besides the skills of those who can afford to travel and know men, I know myself as one who thinks and feels and lives. One thing, O teacher, I must tell you, and thus deceive you not. The fact is, not so long ago, I slew all those who taught me in the past. I killed my teachers, and in my search for liberty, I now stand free. I seek to know myself, within myself, and through myself. My son, that was a deed of wisdom. And now you can stand free. Proceed to labor now, remembering as you do that at the final turning of the wheel will come the mystery of death. Forget this not. What is your age, my son? I had turned 18 summers when I slew the lion, and hence I wear its skin. Again at 21, I met my bride. Today I stand before you, trebly free from my early teachers, free from the fear of fear, and free indeed from all desire. Boast not, my son, but prove to me the nature of this freedom which you sense. Again in Leo will you meet the lion. What will you do? Again in Gemini, the teachers whom you slew will cross your path. Have you indeed left them behind? What will you do? Again in Scorpio, will you wrestle with desire? Will you stand free, or will the serpent meet you with his wiles and pull you down to earth? What will you do? Prepare to prove your words and liberty. Boast not, my son, but prove to me your freedom and your deep desire to serve. The teacher sat in silence, and Hercules withdrew and faced the first great gate. Then the presiding one, who sat within the council chamber of the Lord, spoke to the teacher and bade him call the gods to witness the endeavor and start the new disciple on the way. The teacher called. The gods replied. They came and gave to Hercules their gifts and many words of sage. Knowing the tasks ahead and the perils of the way, Minerva handed him a robe, woven by herself, a robe that fitted well, of beauty rare and fine. He put it on with triumph and with pride, exulting in his youth. He had to prove himself. A golden breastplate Vulcan forged for Hercules to guard his heart, the source of life and strength. This golden gift was girded on it and shielded thus. The new disciple felt secure. He had yet to prove his strength. Neptune arrived with horses twain and handed them in leash to Hercules. Straight from the place of waters they came, a beauty rare and proven strength, and Hercules was pleased, for he had yet to prove his power to ride the horses twain. With graceful speech and brilliant wit came Mercury. Carrying a sword of rare design, which he proffered in a silver sheath to Hercules. He strapped it on the thigh of Hercules, bidding him keep it sharp and bright. It must divide and cut, said Mercury, and with precision and acquired skill must move. And Hercules, with joyous words, tendered his thanks. He had yet to prove his boasted skill. With blaring trumpets and the rush of stamping feet, the chariot of the Son of God flashed. Apollo came, and with this light and charm cheered Hercules, giving him a bow and a bow of light. Through 9 wide open gates must the disciple pass before had acquired sufficient skill to draw that bow. It took him all that time to prove himself the archer. Yet when the gift was proffered, Hercules took it, confident of the power, a power as yet unproven. And thus he stood equipped. The gods stood round his teacher and watched his antics and his joy. He played before the gods and showed his prowess, boasting of his strength. Suddenly he paused and pondered long, then gave the horses to a friend to hold, the sword to still another, and the bow to a third. Then running, he disappeared into the nearby woods. The gods awaited his return, wondering and puzzled over his strange conduct. Back from the woods he came, bearing aloft a club of wood cut from a living tree. "This is mine own," he cried. "None gave it to me. This I can use with power. O gods, watch my deeds." And then, and only then, the teacher said, "Go forth to labor." The elaboration of the myth. We come now to a consideration of Hercules himself. It is a most interesting story and one that has been treated by many writers. Discussion as to the details of his life and arguments as to the sequence of events are not any part of our objective. The various accounts differ in detail according to the bias of the historian and can be studied in the many classical histories and dictionaries. We will deal here only with the 12 famous laborers, and of them we read: Hercules, by the will of Jupiter, was subjected to the power of Eurythes and obliged to obey him in every demand. He consulted the oracle of Apollo and was told that he must be subservient for 12 years to the will of Eurystheus. In compliance with the commands of Jupiter, and that, after he had achieved the most celebrated labors, he should be translated to the gods. So he started off upon his career, and as the disciples under command of his soul undertook the 12 labors, performing each of them in one of the zodiacal signs. He therefore represents every disciple who seeks to tread the path and demonstrate his control over the forces of his nature. And he likewise represents the point at which humanity now finds itself. His early name was Alcides, which was changed to Hercules, and after he had undergone a strange experience, and before he started forth upon his labors, the name Hercules was originally Herakles, which signifies the glory of Hera. Hera represents Psyche, or the soul. So his name embodied his mission, which was to manifest forth in active work on the physical plane the glory and the power of his innate divinity. One of the ancient scriptures of India says, "By mastery of the binding life comes radiance." And it was this mastery of the imprisoning form which was the glorious consummation of all the undertakings of Hercules. We are told that he had a divine father and an earthly mother. And so, as with all sons of God, we find the same basic symbology emerging. They typify in their persons the essential duality of God in manifestation of life in form, of soul in body, and of spirit in matter. This duality is the glory of humanity and also constitutes the problem which every human being has to solve. Father Spirit, Mother Matter meet together in man, and the work of the disciple is to withdraw himself from the bonds of the mother and thus respond to the love of the father. This duality is also brought out in the fact that he was one of twins. We read that one twin was born of an earthly father and that the other was the son of Zeus. This is the great realization that comes to every developed and self-aware human being. He finds himself conscious of two aspects which meet in his nature. There is the well-developed and highly organized personality through which he habitually expresses himself, mental, emotional, and physical, with all three parts coordinated into an integrated unit. Then there is the spiritual nature, which it impulses and intuitions in constant pull towards things vital and divine, and the consequent inner warfare which grows out of this realized duality. Hercules was the disciple, living in a body, but capable at times, like St. Paul, of being caught up to the third heaven and having intercourse with divine beings. In this condition, he visioned the plan, knew what he had to do, and perceived the reality of the spiritual life. There is also one interesting little fact in the story of his life which has a bearing on this same truth. Whilst still an infant, we are told that Hercules killed his own twin. He was no longer a divided entity, no longer a duality, but soul and body formed one unity. This indicates always the stage of the disciple. He has made the at-one-ment and knows himself to be soul and body and not soul and body. And this realization has now to color all his actions. Whilst in the cradle, history relates the lusty infant killed two serpents, again emphasizing duality. In this act, he forecast the future in which he demonstrated that the physical nature no longer controlled, but that he could strangle the serpent of matter and that the great illusion no longer had him imprisoned. He slew the serpent of matter and the serpent of illusion. If the serpent symbology is studied, we shall find that three serpents are depicted, one standing for the serpent of matter, another of illusion, and the third for the serpent of wisdom. This last serpent is only discovered when the other two have been slain. This sense of duality is the first stage of the spiritual experience and colors the thoughts of all the great aspirants and mystics of the world. Note how St. Paul cries out as he wrestles with the problem. I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me. For I delight in the law of God after the inward man. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin which is in my members. I thank God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, with the mind, I myself serve the law of God, but with the flesh, the law of sin. As Hercules grew up, we are told great care was given to his education. He was trained in all possible accomplishments, and every faculty that he had was developed and organized. What is the lesson to be learned from this? It is the need to realize that every disciple, if he truly merits that name, must necessarily be a highly developed member of the human family. All three parts of his nature have to be unfolded. His mind must be well stocked and functioning, and he must know how to use it. His sensitive emotional nature must be responsive to every type of contact. His physical body must be a fit medium of expression for the indwelling soul and equipped to undertake the tasks to which the man has pledged himself. There has been amongst aspirants for many centuries a tendency to decry and belittle the mind. They are apt to say glibly, "The mind is the slayer of the real," and through an unrecognized mental inertia and laziness, to feel that the important thing is to have their heart nature developed. They regard the mind, with its capacity to analyze and discriminate, as a snare and a delusion. But this surely is an error. Knowledge of God is as necessary as and important as love of God. And this, the new age, with its new type of aspirant, will most assuredly demonstrate. Saintliness, sweetness, and a pleasing, loving disposition have their place in the sum total of the characteristics of the aspirant. But when linked to stupidity and an undeveloped mentality, they fail to be as useful as they could be when coupled to intelligence. When linked to a high-grade intellect and with mental powers oriented to divine knowledge, they will produce that knower of God whose influence becomes worldwide and who can both love and teach his fellow men.